for Murasaki, it was a quieter thing. You know, she was a very refined woman in the imperial palace, but you know, she found her own ways to rebel. For her, she was intellectual. You know, she was an intellectual woman, and you know, she was told that women didn't learn Chinese because that was the language of power and of politics, and you know, not the language of women. And she went out and learned it anyway. You know, and learned it much faster than her brother, whose lessons she was eavesdropping on. And one of the interesting things about that too, and I think that this is sort of a metaphor for a lot of stuff with women, is that Japanese women, because they weren't supposed to use Chinese, were confined to more conversational Japanese. And they ended up doing a lot of the innovation in literature because they had, you know, they had the more conversational language to work with. And so that's part of what, you know, Murasaki's work came out of, and a lot of women in her era and a bit later. Like a lot of that, the literary traditions of Japan come from women in that era. Because it was because they were excluded in a way that it actually gave them access to something else that they ended up making just as interesting or more powerful in a way. Murasaki, we actually have her diary, which is likely incomplete, but there are still long entries that detail her life and the court and her rivalries and who was talking shit. And like, you really get a really clear window into this woman's personality who lived 1,000 years ago, which is a really cool thing to be able to do. And again, what she did in her book, that's part of what made it the first modern novel, the first psychological novel, was that she took people inside the minds of her characters. It wasn't just a litany of actions people were taking. It was the story of, you know, what it was to be a person, what it was to see through their eyes and how they felt. And we get that with her in her diaries, certainly.